Look, I have been working at the Galactic Biological Assessment Center for 73 cycles. Okay? 73 cycles of testing, cataloging, and classifying every species that crawls, slithers, or flies through this galaxy. I have seen it all, or at least, I thought I had seen it all, until the day Yib walked into my laboratory with that data tablet, and that look on his face. You know the look, the one that says, I am about to ruin your entire afternoon, possibly your entire year, and I am very sorry about it, but also you are not going to believe this. Krelvan, Yib said, his anterior manipulators trembling slightly as he held out the tablet. We have a problem. I did not even look up from my protein sequencer. If this is about the Glorbian tissue samples again, I already told you, they are supposed to smell like that. No sir, it is. It is not about the Glorbians. Then what? I finally glanced at him, and that is when I noticed he had gone completely pale, which for Yib's species, means a sort of greyish-green color that usually indicates either extreme nausea or existential terror. Yib, are you having another metabolic episode? Because I told you to stop eating from the station's food court. Sir, the Predator Index results came back. And, for the humans, I set down my instrument. The humans, right. The newest species to join the Galactic Council, those bipedal mammals from that horrifying death world they call Earth. Nice enough beings, generally speaking, a bit loud, somewhat reckless, but overall harmless. We had run their DNA through the standard classification protocols 3 weeks ago. Just routine procedure for all new council members. Let me guess, I said, already reaching for the tablet. They scored a 2? Maybe a 3? Omnivore classification? Moderate territorial instincts? Standard pack bonding behaviors? Yib made a sound that I can only describe as a whimper. Not exactly, sir. I looked at the screen, blinked, looked again, rubbed my primary ocular organs, looked a third time. 8.7. 8.7 out of 10 on the Predator classification scale. For context, the Cravathi death lizards, those 600-pound apex predators from the sulfur swamps of Cravath Prime, the ones that hunt in packs and can bite through reinforced steel, scored an 8.2. The humans, these soft, squishy mammals who wear clothing and drink beverages with little umbrellas in them, had scored higher than the death lizards. The equipment is broken, I said flatly. Sir, I ran 3 separate diagnostics. The equipment is functioning perfectly. Then the sample was contaminated. I used a fresh sample, directly from the human delegation's medical files, provided by their own physicians. Then the database is corrupted. I checked the database integrity twice, sir. It is fine. I stared at the numbers on the screen, feeling a creeping sensation of dread working its way up my spinal column. 8.7. That put humans in the top 15th percentile of known predator species in the entire galaxy. That meant, according to our own scientific classifications, that humans were more dangerous, more inherently predatory, than 97% of species we had ever tested. Run it again, I said, my voice coming out slightly higher pitched than I intended. Sir, run the entire test again, Yib. New sample, new equipment, new everything. There has to be an error somewhere. There has to be. Because the alternative was that we had just invited a species of apex predators to join the Galactic Council, given them access to our trade routes, our technology, our worlds, and they had been smiling at us the whole time. The second test took 48 hours. 48 hours of me trying to convince myself that this was all just a technical malfunction. A cosmic joke. A horrible misunderstanding. 48 hours of me sleeping poorly, eating worse, and wondering if I should update my personal insurance policy. Yib walked in at precisely 0900 station time. He looked worse than before, if that was even possible. Please tell me it is fixed, I said, before he could even open his mouth. He placed the new tablet on my desk with the kind of careful, deliberate movement usually reserved for handling live explosives. The results are, conclusive, sir. I grabbed the tablet, stared at it. Felt my circulatory system do something very unhealthy. 8.9. 8.9. It had gone up. The retest had somehow made it worse. The humans had scored higher the second time, as if their DNA had looked at our test and said, oh, you want predatory. Let me show you predatory. This is not possible, I muttered, scrolling through the detailed breakdown. Yib, do you understand what this means? Do you comprehend the implications here? I ran the comparative analysis, sir. Yib's voice was barely a whisper. Against all known species in the database. And humans outrank 47 documented apex predators. 47, sir. They score higher than Vrelian razorbacks, higher than Xanthian tunnel stalkers, higher than the Mythian void hunters that eat starship hulls for minerals. I felt a laugh building in my throat, the kind of laugh that happens when your brain simply cannot process reality anymore. So what you are telling me, what the Galactic Predator Classification Database is telling me, is that these humans, these beings who shake hands and say please and thank you, are statistically more dangerous than creatures that are literally named death lizards and razorbacks. Yes, sir. The same humans who have adopted something called cats as companions? Those small furry predators they keep in their homes? The data does not lie, sir. Oh, the data does not lie, I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. How reassuring, how absolutely wonderful. I feel so much better now. Thank you, data, for confirming that we have been having diplomatic lunches with apex predators, completely unaware that we were probably being evaluated for nutritional content. Yib shifted uncomfortably. What do we do, sir? That was the question, was it not? What do you do when you suddenly realize that the friendly species who just joined the council, who have been so polite and accommodating, are apparently biological nightmares wrapped in soft skin and diplomatic smiles? We observe them, I said finally, making a decision that I would regret approximately 3 hours later. In their natural habitat, we need to understand why the classification is so high. There has to be an explanation, maybe. Maybe they have vestigial predator traits. Evolutionary leftovers that do not actually manifest in behavior. Where would we observe them, sir? I pulled up the station directory on my datapad. According to this, there is a human currently stationed on the Proxima trade station, about 3 light years from here. Engineering officer, assigned to the station's maintenance crew. We can take a transport shuttle, arrive by tomorrow, and observe. Observe them where? Exactly. I found the location I was looking for. Apparently humans have established something called a bar on level 7. A social gathering place where they consume ethanol and engage in recreational conversation. They drink poison for recreation, sir. According to their own medical data, yes, Yib. Yes, they do. We stared at each other for a long moment. I am beginning to think, Yib said slowly, that the predator rating might actually be accurate. Pack a bag, Yib. We leave in 2 hours. The bar, and I use that term generously, was called the Rusty Comet. It smelled like a mixture of ozone, spilled beverages, and questionable life choices. The lighting was dim, which I assumed was intentional, because nobody looks good under bright lights after drinking ethanol, and the furniture appeared to be bolted to the floor, which honestly seemed like a reasonable precaution. Yib and I had secured a table in the corner far enough away to observe, close enough to hear. We ordered something non-toxic, at least to our species, and tried to look casual, inconspicuous, like 2 terrified xenobiologists who had not just discovered that they were sharing a space station with apex predators. The human was easy to spot. Marcus Holt, according to the station manifest, engineering officer, 34 Earth years old, approximately 1.8 meters tall, brown hair, brown eyes, and currently laughing so hard he had to set down his drink to avoid spilling it. He was surrounded by a mixed group, 2 Centaurians, a Quellan, and what looked like a Betelgeusian navigator. All of them were staring at Marcus, with expressions ranging from confusion to outright horror. So there I was. Right. Marcus was saying, his voice carrying across the bar with that peculiar human volume control that seems to vanish after the second drink. Middle of the woods, 3 days into a camping trip with my brother, and we hear this sound outside the tent, this like huffing, snorting sound. What was the sound? The Quellan asked nervously. A bear. Silence. Dead silence. The kind of silence that happens when someone casually mentions a large predatory mammal in the context of a recreational activity. A bear? One of the Centaurians stammered. You mean the 600-pound territorial omnivores from your planet's forest regions? The ones with the claws and the teeth? Yeah, exactly. Marcus grinned, apparently missing the existential terror in the Centaurian's voice. So my brother, genius that he is, decides we should go outside and, quote, scare it away. You went outside, Yib whispered beside me, his voice shaking. With the bear? They went outside with the bear. Shh, I hissed, leaning closer to listen. So we grab our flashlights, Marcus continued, and we step out of the tent, and there it is, maybe 20 feet away, just staring at us. Huge. I mean, massive. And my brother, he starts yelling at it. Just yelling, making himself big, waving his arms around like a complete lunatic. Did you die? The Betelgeusian asked, genuinely concerned. Marcus laughed. Laughed? No, the bear just kind of looked at us like we were idiots, and then it wandered off. Probably went to find some campers who were less annoying. You confronted a bear, an apex predator, while unarmed in the dark, and you consider this a humorous anecdote? The Quellen's eye stalks were quivering. I mean, yeah, it was pretty funny in hindsight. My brother still brings it up at family dinners. Good times. Good times. The human had nearly been mauled by a 600-pound predator and classified the experience as good times. I looked down at my datapad, made a note. Observation 1. Humans find their own near-death experiences entertaining. Possible evolutionary trait. Use humor to process trauma and reinforce pack bonding through shared danger. Or, alternative theory, humans are completely insane. There is more, Marcus was saying, taking another sip of his drink. Because the next morning we found bear tracks, literally circling our tent. It had been checking us out for like an hour while we were sleeping. The entire table recoiled. And you still go camping? The Centaurian asked, incredulous. Oh yeah, all the time. I am actually planning a trip to Yellowstone next leave. Gonna see some wolves, maybe some elk. Should be fun. Fun? Recreational exposure to predators. For fun. I made another note. Humans actively seek out dangerous fauna during leisure time. Predator trait confirmed. They are not running from the food chain. They are treating it like entertainment. Yib, I said quietly, watching Marcus order another round for his increasingly disturbed companions. I think we need more data, sir. I think we need therapy. That too, Yib. That too. Marcus launched into another story, something about an animal called a moose, and I decided that I had heard enough for one evening. We had come here looking for an explanation, some rational reason why humans scored so high on the predator index. Instead I had confirmation. Humans were not just predators. They were predators who thought being prey was hilarious. We were doomed. The next morning, after a sleepless night spent questioning every life decision that had led me to this moment, Yib and I made our way to the station's medical bay. If we were going to understand humans, we needed to talk to someone with actual scientific training. Someone rational. Someone who could explain all of this in a way that would not make me want to resign from my position and move to a remote moon somewhere. Dr. Pembroke was a human medical officer, 47 Earth years old, with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that I initially found reassuring. That lasted approximately 4 minutes. So, you want to know about human biology? Dr. Pembroke said, settling into her chair with a cup of something dark and steaming. Sure, happy to help. What specifically are you curious about? Your immune system, I said, consulting my notes. Our scans indicate an unusually aggressive cellular defense mechanism. We would like to understand, the parameters. Dr. Pembroke smiled. Oh, I wish she had not smiled. Oh, yes. The human immune system is pretty remarkable, actually. Constantly at war. At war, Yib squeaked. Oh yeah, every second of every day your body is fighting off bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, millions of microscopic invaders trying to kill you, and your immune system is just battling them non-stop. It is like having a tiny army inside you that never sleeps, never surrenders, never takes a day off. I felt my skin prickle. You are telling me that humans are perpetually under biological siege, that your bodies are constantly fighting for survival at a cellular level?
Pretty much, yeah. If our immune system stopped working, we would be dead in, probably a week, maybe less. She took a sip of her beverage, completely casual, as if she had not just described a nightmare scenario. And that does not concern you.
I mean, it is just how it works. You get used to it. She gestured with her cup. Want some coffee, by the way? Fresh brewed. What is coffee? Yib asked suspiciously. Oh, it is a drink made from ground-up seeds, contains caffeine, a mild stimulant. Helps you wake up, stay alert. We are kind of addicted to it, culturally speaking. I stared at her. You consume a stimulant, a chemical compound that affects your neural function, every morning? Voluntarily? Sometimes multiple times a day, yeah. For what purpose? Because otherwise we are tired and grumpy. She said this like it was the most reasonable thing in the galaxy. I made a note. Humans regularly ingest psychoactive substances to modify their baseline neurological state. They call this breakfast. What else do you consume? I asked, dreading the answer. Oh, well, alcohol, obviously. Ethanol. It is a toxin, technically, but in moderate amounts it makes social situations more enjoyable. Then there is spicy food. That is a fun one. Spicy food? Yeah, you know, peppers, chilies, hot sauce. Foods that contain capsaicin, which is a chemical that triggers your pain receptors, makes your mouth feel like it is on fire. Yib looked like he might faint. You eat pain. On purpose? Well, yeah, it is delicious. Plus it gives you this rush, endorphins and stuff. Really clears out your sinuses. Let me understand this correctly, I said, feeling a headache forming behind my ocular organs. Humans consume toxic substances for pleasure, ingest pain-inducing chemicals for enjoyment, and maintain a permanent state of internal biological warfare, and you consider this normal? I mean, when you put it like that it sounds bad. Dr. Pembroke laughed. But yeah, basically, what do your species do? My species, I said, my voice tight, can die from eating the wrong shade of purple berry. We have 17 different categories of food toxicity warnings. Our immune systems are delicate, finely tuned instruments that require careful balance and constant monitoring. Huh? Dr. Pembroke said thoughtfully. That sounds stressful. Stressful. The human thought our fragile biology sounded stressful, while she sat there drinking her neurotoxin, surrounded by her microscopic army, probably contemplating eating pain for lunch. Dr. Pembroke, I said slowly, has it ever occurred to you that humans might be perhaps slightly more dangerous than you realize? She considered this, took another sip of coffee. I mean, we did dominate our entire planet's ecosystem and make it to space travel in a few thousand years. So yeah, I guess we are pretty good at surviving. Pretty good at surviving. That was one way to put it. I made a final note. Humans are their own worst enemies and have somehow turned self-destruction into recreation. Predator classification, accurate. Possibly too low. By day 3 of our research, I had developed a nervous twitch in my left manipulator appendage. Yib had started taking anti-anxiety medication, and we still had not found any evidence that would contradict the Predator Index results. If anything, every observation only made things worse, which is why we found ourselves standing outside the station's gymnasium at 0600 hours, watching through the observation window, as a human named Lieutenant Okoye did something that could only be described as voluntary self-torture. Explain to me again, I said to Yib, why we are here at this ungodly hour. Humans have a concept called morning workouts, sir. Apparently they prefer to, exercise before their duty shifts begin. Exercise, I repeated, watching Lieutenant Okoye lift a metal bar loaded with weights that probably outweighed her by a factor of 2. That is what we are calling this. She lifted the bar, lowered it, lifted it again. Her face contorted with effort, her muscles straining visibly beneath her skin. And then I noticed the liquid secreting from her pores, covering her skin, dripping onto the floor. Yib, I said, my voice very calm, very controlled. Is that what I think it is? Yib checked his scanner. Sweat, sir, a cooling mechanism. Humans secrete a mixture of water, salt and various metabolic compounds through their skin to regulate body temperature. And the chemical composition? Mildly acidic, sir. pH level of approximately 4.5 to 6.5. Would cause dermal irritation to, let me see, 68% of known species. Severe chemical burns to at least 12%. So, what you are telling me, I said, watching Lieutenant Okoye move to another machine, still dripping with her acidic secretions, is that humans coat themselves in a substance that would hospitalize most of the galaxy, and they do this while deliberately straining their muscular systems to the point of damage. That appears to be the purpose, yes sir. According to human physiology, they create micro-tears in muscle fiber, which then repair themselves and become stronger. It is a process called hypertrophy. They damage themselves, on purpose, to become stronger. Correct, sir. I watched Lieutenant Okoye finish her set, grab a towel, wipe the acid sweat from her face, and then, and this is the part that broke something in my mind, she got on a machine and started running. Just running. Going nowhere. Running in place while staring at a screen showing entertainment programs. Why is she running? I asked. Is something chasing her? Is there a threat? No, sir. Humans run for cardiovascular health and enjoyment. Enjoyment? They call it a runner's high, sir. Apparently, prolonged physical exertion triggers endorphin release, which creates a euphoric sensation. So, humans, I said, my voice taking on that slightly hysterical quality that I was becoming familiar with, have evolved to experience pleasure from exhausting themselves. They have literally turned the act of fleeing from predators into a recreational activity. It would appear so, sir. Lieutenant Okoye increased her running speed. Her breathing became heavier, more labored. The sweat was now flowing freely, and she was smiling. Smiling. I made a note. Humans engage in voluntary physical trauma for entertainment purposes. They secrete acid while doing so. They experience euphoria from exhaustion. This species has somehow turned hunting and being hunted into a form of leisure activity. They hunt themselves, for fun. Sir, Yib said quietly, I think I need to sit down. Not here, Yib. The floor is probably contaminated with human sweat. We would need medical attention. We retreated to a safe distance, watching through the window as Lieutenant Okoye finished her run, moved to yet another machine, and began pulling herself upward using only her arms, repeatedly, with weights attached to her body. They are insane, I whispered. Evolutionarily, biologically, fundamentally insane. Should we continue observing, sir? I looked at my datapad, at the Predator Index score, 8.9. I looked back at Lieutenant Okoye, who was now doing something called burpees, which appeared to be a combination of every terrible exercise ever conceived, performed in rapid succession. Yes, I said. Yes, we continue, because I need to know. I need to understand how this species survived long enough to achieve space travel without accidentally killing themselves through recreational activity. Maybe, Yib suggested weakly, that is exactly why they survived, sir. I stared at him. He was right. How? Stars above? He was absolutely right. Back in our temporary quarters, surrounded by datapads, half-consumed nutritional supplements, and a growing sense of existential dread, Yib and I began our deep research into human history. If we wanted answers, we needed to go back, way back, to Earth itself. Okay, I said, pulling up the planetary classification files. Let us start with their homeworld. Get some context for all of this. Yib entered the search parameters, waited, then made a sound like a deflating balloon. Sir, you need to see this. I looked at the screen, blinked, read it again. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, I said aloud, just to make sure I was reading it correctly. Yib, the classification scale only goes up to 10. I know, sir. So humans, these humans broke the planetary danger scale. They come from a world so hostile that we had to invent a new category just to classify it. Apparently, sir, yes. I scrolled through the details, and each line was more horrifying than the last. Extreme temperature variations, ranging from -80 to +50 Celsius. Atmospheric oxygen levels so high that fire was a constant threat. Tectonic instability, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Severe weather patterns including hurricanes, tornadoes, and lightning storms. And the biodiversity. Oh, the biodiversity. Everything on this planet is trying to kill everything else, I muttered, reading through the species list. Venomous insects, toxic plants, predatory mammals, parasitic organisms, bacterial infections, viral plagues. There are spiders the size of dinner plates, jellyfish that can stop your cardiac system with a single touch, plants that cause severe pain if you brush against them. Keep scrolling, sir, Yib said weakly. It gets worse. I scrolled, found a section on human hunting practices, and then I had to put the datapad down for a moment and just breathe. Persistence hunting, I read aloud. Humans chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal literally dies of exhaustion. They do not use venom. They do not use overwhelming strength. They just follow the prey until it gives up and collapses. Like a horror story, sir. It is a horror story, Yib. Can you imagine being hunted by something that never stops, never tires, just keeps coming, hour after hour, until you are too exhausted to run anymore? That is nightmare fuel. That is the plot of every psychological thriller ever written. I kept reading, because apparently I hate myself. And look at this. Humans have a cooling system, so efficient, that they can run in heat that would kill most predators. They can track prey across multiple terrain types using visual cues and reasoning. They can coordinate in groups using complex language. They can... Wait, what is this? Sir? I zoomed in on a particular entry. Humans domesticated wolves. Wolves, Yib, Canis, lupus, apex predators, pack hunters. They took wild wolves and turned them into companions, bred them into hundreds of varieties, made them smaller, friendlier, and now humans call them dogs and treat them like children. They domesticated predators? Not just domesticated, Yib. They made them cute. Look at this image. This is called a corgi. It has short legs and a fluffy bottom. Humans think it is adorable. This creature's ancestors hunted in packs and took down prey twice their size. Yib stared at the image. That is actually quite cute, sir. That is not the point, I snapped. The point is that humans looked at apex predators and thought, you know what? Friendship material. Let us bring them into our homes. Let us selectively breed them until they fetch balls and wear sweaters. I pulled up another file. And cats. They domesticated cats. Small obligate carnivores. Humans keep them as pets even though cats are literally designed to kill smaller creatures. Humans find this charming. What else did they domesticate, sir? I checked the list, felt my brain try to shut down as a protective measure. Horses, large prey animals they use for transportation. Cattle, which they raise for food. Chickens, also for food. Pigs, also for food. They have turned their entire planet's ecosystem into a managed resource system. They are not part of Earth's food chain, Yib. They are running it. So, let me understand, Yib said slowly. Humans come from a planet that is actively hostile to life. They survived by becoming the most persistent predators in their ecosystem. They domesticated other predators for companionship, and they reorganized their entire planetary food chain to suit their needs. That is correct. And then they went to space and started making friends with everyone? Also correct. We sat in silence for a long moment. Sir, Yib finally said, I think the predator index rating of 8.9 might actually be generous. I could not even argue with him. I should have stopped. I should have taken our findings, filed a report and gone home. But no, I had to be thorough. I had to understand completely. Which is how Yib and I ended up in the observation deck above the station's security training room, watching Sergeant Kowalski teach a hand-to-hand combat class. This is called Krav Maga, Sergeant Kowalski was saying to a group of mixed-species security personnel, most of whom looked deeply uncomfortable. It is an Israeli martial art designed for real-world combat situations. The goal is simple, neutralize the threat as quickly and efficiently as possible. Martial art. I repeated, checking my datapad. Yib, how many of these martial arts do humans have? Yib consulted his tablet, his manipulators shaking slightly. Over 150 documented styles, sir, from various regions and time periods. Karate, judo, kung fu, boxing, wrestling, taekwondo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai and... The list continues. 150 ways to kill someone without weapons. Actually, sir, many of them emphasize discipline, respect, and self-control. Oh, well, that makes it so much better, Yib. They have 150 systematized methods for unarmed combat. But it is okay because they are respectful about it. Down below, Sergeant Kowalski was demonstrating a technique on a volunteer, a Centaurian, who had made the unfortunate decision to participate. If someone grabs you like this, she said, moving with terrifying speed and precision, you rotate here, strike here, and apply pressure to this joint, which will cause them to release immediately. The Centaurian tapped out frantically. Sergeant Kowalski released him and helped him up with a friendly pat on the shoulder. Good job. Remember, it is all about leverage and knowing your anatomy. Sir, Yib whispered. She just disarmed and incapacitated a being larger than herself in under 3 seconds. I noticed, Yib. And she was smiling the entire time. Also noticed, Sergeant Kowalski continued. Now humans have been developing combat systems for thousands of years. We have adapted techniques for every body type, every situation, every possible threat scenario. And we start training young. How young? One of the students asked nervously. Oh, lots of human children start martial arts around 5 or 6 Earth years old. It is good for coordination, discipline, confidence. Plus, they love it. Makes them feel strong. I felt something inside me break. Just snap cleanly in half. Human children, I said, my voice barely audible. Human offspring. Their vulnerable young practice combat techniques for fun. It appears so, sir. What else do human children do for entertainment, Yib? Please enlighten me. I am sure it cannot possibly get worse. Yib scrolled through his research. Well, sir, they play games called tag, which simulates pursuit and evasion. Hide and seek, which teaches stealth and tracking. Dodgeball, which involves throwing projectiles at opponents. King of the Hill, which is essentially combat for territorial dominance. Capture the flag, which is, well, simulated warfare really. Simulated warfare. For children, sir. They call it playtime. Down in the training room, Sergeant Kowalski was now demonstrating something called a rear naked choke. This is a blood choke, she explained cheerfully. Cut off blood flow to the brain, your opponent loses consciousness in seconds. Very effective, very clean. Very effective. Very clean. She was describing how to render someone unconscious with your bare hands, and using the same tone someone might use to discuss a recipe for baked goods. Sir, Yib said quietly, what are we going to tell the Galactic Council? That was the question, was it not? What do you tell the Council when you discover that the friendly cooperative species they just welcomed is actually composed of apex predators who train their children in combat, domesticate other predators for fun, and have developed over 150 ways to kill you without even picking up a weapon? I am having an existential crisis, Yib. Yes, sir. A genuine, full-scale questioning the nature of reality and my place in it. Existential crisis. Understandable, sir. I watched Sergeant Kowalski demonstrate another technique, moving with the fluid precision of a born predator, and realized something that made my circulatory system run cold. Every human on this station, every human in the Council, every human spreading throughout the galaxy, had this potential, this capacity for controlled violence, hidden beneath pleasant smiles and diplomatic courtesy. They were not just predators, they were disciplined predators. Organized predators. Predators who had turned killing into an art form and then taught it to their children as character building. We are sharing the galaxy, I said slowly, with a species that has weaponized politeness. Sir? They are so dangerous, Yib, that they had to develop elaborate social rules and cultural customs just to keep from accidentally destroying each other. All those please and thank yous? That is not kindness. That is a safety protocol. Yib stared at me, then at the humans below, then back at me. Oh no, he whispered. Oh yes, Yib. Oh very much yes. Official report to the Galactic Council. Biological Assessment Center. Station Proximus, filed by Senior Xenobiologist Krelvan, Classification Division, Ray Human Species Predator Index Classification Review. To the esteemed members of the Galactic Council, greetings. After extensive field research, observation and analysis, I am writing to confirm that the Predator Index classification of humanity at 8.9 out of 10 is not only accurate, but may in fact be conservative. What follows is my official assessment, and I would like to state for the record that I was completely sober when writing this, despite how it may sound. Humans are apex predators. This is not debatable. This is not subjective. This is biological fact, supported by overwhelming evidence. They come from a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile we had to invent a new classification category. They survived by becoming persistence hunters, literally chasing prey until it died of exhaustion, which is, and I cannot stress this enough, the most terrifying hunting method I have ever encountered. They domesticated other apex predators and turned them into companions. They have over 150 systematized methods of unarmed combat. They train their children in warfare techniques, disguised as games. They poison themselves recreationally and find it enjoyable. But here is the truly terrifying part. The part that keeps me awake at night. The part that I need the council to understand. Humans do not know they are terrifying. They genuinely believe they are normal, average, unremarkable. They look at their acid sweat and persistence hunting and combat training and recreational poison consumption and think, yes, this is fine, this is just how things are. They have no concept of how absolutely horrifying they are to the rest of the galaxy, which makes them more dangerous. Because they are not trying to intimidate us. They are not posturing. They are simply being themselves, and their natural state of existence is something that would give most species nightmares. My recommendations are as follows. First, never, under any circumstances, anger the humans. They are polite because they choose to be, not because they have to be. Their social customs are not weakness. They are self-imposed restrictions on a species that could probably conquer the galaxy if they got bored enough. Second, accept that humans are now part of the Galactic Council and adapt accordingly. They are here, they are friendly, and they want to cooperate. The fact that they could easily dominate us and choose not to is frankly a gift we should appreciate. Third, understand that human friendship is probably the most valuable commodity in the galaxy right now. Because if humans consider you a friend, they will die for you, literally. They have a concept called self-sacrifice that is built into their cultural DNA. They will throw themselves into danger to protect those they care about, which is both beautiful and absolutely insane. In conclusion, the Predator Index classification stands. Humans are dangerous. They are also kind, curious, creative, and compassionate. They are walking contradictions, apex predators who write poetry, persistence hunters who rescue injured animals, combat-trained warriors who cry at sad movies. They are the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and they want to be our friends. I recommend we let them. Respectfully submitted, and may the stars have mercy on us all. Senior Xenobiologist Krelvan. I finished typing the report, sat back and rubbed my ocular organs. Yib had already gone back to our home station, citing mental exhaustion and the need for several weeks of therapy. I did not blame him. I would probably be joining him shortly. Excuse me, sir. I jumped, nearly knocking over my datapad. Standing in the doorway was a human security officer, tall, broad-shouldered, with a friendly smile that I now recognized as the expression of a satisfied apex predator. Yes? I managed, my voice coming out higher than intended. Just checking in. We noticed you have been doing research on the station for the past few days. Everything okay? Getting what you need? Oh yes, everything is fine. I lied, clutching my datapad like a protective talisman. Just routine biological assessments. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. All perfectly normal. Great. Well, if you need anything, just let us know. We are here to help. He gave me a thumbs up. A human gesture I had learned meant approval and friendliness, and walked away whistling something cheerful. I watched him go, this predator in a uniform, this apex hunter, who had just offered me assistance with genuine warmth and kindness. And that is when it hit me. The final, ultimate realization that tied everything together. The predators, the most dangerous species in the galaxy, had decided to call themselves the good guys. And we, the rest of the council, the prey species, the fragile beings who could die from the wrong shade of purple berry, had all just looked at them, at their acid sweat and their persistence hunting and their 150 combat styles, and said, yes, absolutely, you are definitely the good guys. Welcome aboard, please do not eat us. We had not just accepted humans into the Galactic Council. We had given apex predators the keys to the galaxy and asked them politely to drive carefully. I looked down at my report, at the words on the screen, and added one final line. Addendum, the predators are calling themselves the good guys, and we all just agreed with them. I am not sure whether this is the smartest decision we have ever made, or the last decision we will ever make. Time will tell. Probably, hopefully. Please let it be the former. I hit send, packed up my equipment, and decided that I needed a very long vacation on a very quiet moon somewhere very far away from any humans. Just for a little while. Just until my manipulator appendage stopped twitching,